G'day gang. While upcoming attractions on this little bit of a break, we thought we'd give you this test episode to listen to. This is recorded during the COVID pandemic when a lot of movies weren't coming to theaters, so we made our predictions on what was going on. As you can tell, this episode isn't kind of like the others. It's got a few differences here and there, and that's because we're still figuring things out. I think this was the very first episode we ever recorded. So, without further ado, enjoy, and I hope to be back real soon talking all the good stuff here at Upcoming Attractions. On this giant episode of Upcoming Attractions, we're talking about all the movies we're going to miss due to the Sydney lockdown. I'm talking Snake Eyes, G.I. Joe Origin, James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, Free Guy, Don't Breathe 2, Candyman, Fast and Furious 9, Space Jam, A New Legacy, and a whole lot more. It is depressing to know I'm not going to see this at the same time as you guys, but I'm really excited to talk about it. So let's get right into it in this episode of Upcoming Attractions. Ladies and gentlemen, and everybody else, welcome back to another episode of Upcoming Attractions. As always, I'm your host, Matt Vella. With me today is my co-host, Adrianne. Adrianne, how are we today?
Hey, I'm pretty damn great. Considering it's lockdown, I'm doing well, really well.
Yeah.
How about you?
I'm good. I'm happy. I'm chill. Yeah. For everybody listening, which is everybody who is listening to what I'm saying, I guess. So full disclosure, we don't know if you're going to hear this or not. So if you do, congratulations to us, to you, to everyone, because this could have been lost. What's happening is you've heard episodes of Upcoming Attractions before, but this is the very first one recorded. We've never done this before. This is our testing our software. And that's why we've got a little bit of a different topic today. But if it does well, that means it's a good sign. That means it's out there. We may do more bonus ones like this in the future, but we'll see. We're going to be based around a topic. And the topic today is movies we'll miss. So what's happening right now is that we're based in Sydney. And unfortunately, we're locked down due to that deadly disease going around. Yeah, you might have heard about it. It's a whole thing. And this wasn't a big problem for Upcoming Attractions in our previous format because the lockdown here didn't last very long and, Netflix is pumping stuff out. But right now we're in a unique situation because Sydney is one of the only places in the world that is locked down like this while everybody else is living their lives happy. And so all the movie theaters are like open everywhere else and they're bring movies out, and we're going to miss a bunch, and we're going to have to really fight to avoid spoilers, and we don't want to encourage things like, watching movies illegally here. So the movies we're going to talk about today are movies we're probably not going to be able to see in cinemas, probably movies we won't be able to review today, review like in time with everybody else. So we're gonna give our impressions, our predictions, how we think they might go, and we're also going to talk about some of the ones we already have missed as well. So, yeah. Should we get into it?
Yeah, let's get into it.
All right. So, the very first one, Fast 9, or as I like to call it, F9, The Fast Saga, which is probably the worst name for a film of all time.
Yeah, could have been so much better, but that's okay.
You know what? That whole franchise has got problems with its names. They can't decide what it's called. It goes from... was it Furious 7, and there was like Fast and Furious 6, and there was like Fast 9. It's like, pick a word and stick with it, guys.
Yeah. I feel like that's an indicator they have like 57 people writing the script all the time.
No. Fun fact about Fast and Furious.
Okay.
Very rare for a franchise this big. I think it's from 4 to 8. From 4 to 8, one writer.
Okay.
Same guy. And he's not a 13-year-old boy. He's just a crazy lunatic who blows up cars. And Fast 9, I think, is the first one since 4 or 5 where this guy didn't write it. It's co-written from Justin Lin and this other dude I'm not familiar with. But, yeah.
Okay.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I keep saying that a lot today, but that's cool. We're going to keep rolling through it. Fast 9 came out the week lockdown started. I was lucky enough to see it. It sucks, but yeah, I was lucky enough to see it. I have spoken about it before, but just to get in the roll of things, Adi, tell us your experience with previous Fast and Furious franchise. Where are you at with it? What do you expect? Let's start with there. Where are you at with the franchise?
I'm always going to be all over it, you know? It's like, it started off pretty damn amazing. 1 and 2 for me are pretty flawless action movies. And then 3 as like a 10-year-old or whatever was the coolest thing ever. And then everything from there up until now, it's just like, it's so insane. You can't look away. Good, bad, exciting, whatever the hell's going on. You just can't. You can't stop. And I won't stop. And I'm not ashamed of that. But I'm a fast fan, and my whole family is. We watch all of them. They're great popcorn franchise. Like, you just switch your brain off, let the ridiculousness happen. I'm on the boat of like, I've actually prefer them. Like, there are a lot of people out there who are like, oh well, the cars, you know, they're not racing anymore. It's like, but I'm not here for that. I'm here for the crazy bullshit. Yeah. How are you supposed to race a car in space? You can't do it for real, you know? Like, you can't be upset by that.
Well, they try in this new one. No spoilers, but they try. Something that, so in the previous format of the show, back on Midnight Double Feature, Zoe brought up a good point, which is a lot of people will be like, oh, well, it's not about racing anymore. And he argues that the franchise never was. So the first movie doesn't open...
It was never about racing.
Like, it's a vehicle, no pun intended, for the action.
Oh my god!
Like,
it's a driver for the action.
Yeah, like the first movie isn't about winning a race. It's about stopping a bunch of car thieves. You know, DVD thieves. It opens on a heist, and there's still essentially heist movies with cars. My problem with the franchise is that I feel like they've jumped the gun recently. I didn't mind the Marvel level craziness, but Fast 8 I thought was a little boring, and I think that comes down to Vin Diesel and Dwayne Johnson's disagreements, because you can tell the way they wrote the script.
Yeah.
So big, but you can tell when they wrote the script, they're written so they're never in the same room. They only have 2 scenes where they're near each other. One, they're in 2 separate cars, so clearly shot in different locations. And another one is, I think, at the end when they all like have dinner together.
They have to sort of,
but they're clearly not in the same room when they filmed it. So I think that hurt the film. And then Hobbs and Shaw, I feel like...
I loved Hobbs and Shaw, just low-key. I really enjoyed it.
Hobbs and Shaw, for me, it's like, it's everything I wanted. Well, it's everything I thought I wanted, and then I got it.
Oh, okay.
And now I'm like, oh no, because...
I don't actually want that.
It's like they're in on the joke, and that makes it less funny.
Oh, I get what you mean. I get what you mean. I actually really agree with that. I love the chemistry between Statham and pretty much anyone. I love him. Like, he could be a potato farmer, and I will still pay $30 for the ticket. I just loved it. I loved the cheese.
Well, that's the best part of 8, right? The best part of 8 was Statham and Johnson. No one ever calls him Johnson. The Rock's chemistry. And I do think it was cool how they tried to like focus on that for Hobbs and Shaw. But like when you got this guy going around like, I'm Black Superman, and there's like there's like a robot like evil Apple corporation and all this like weird G.I. Joe type shit, and it's like, oh, this is what I thought I wanted, but now I'm getting it. It's like I don't want it now. And so with Fast 9, what I will say is the presence, and also, sorry, I should also say, well, I do love Dwayne Johnson. He's a little too clean for me. I've noticed, like, his production company, $7.
In what way?
It's like he's trying too hard to appeal. It's not just him. It's like all these productions. They try really hard to appeal to like the 4 quadrants. Like they're trying to make. He always has to look badass. He can never lose a fight. He has to get as much hits as he dishes out. So there's never any stakes. He's always got to look cool. The only time he can't look cool is when it's like it's because look how funny I am, which is still a way of looking cool. And so
it's
everything
still
feels,
being too prim and proper.
It's very McDonald's. It's very plastic. It feels very artificial, and
it's a package, like it's a packaged product. Too much.
Yeah, and surprisingly, what I really like about Fast 9 is now that he's gone, like all the screen time's not on him, and so we get to focus on all these other characters, and it feels like there's a little bit more stakes. There's a little bit more to go on, which I haven't felt in the franchise for a while. But besides that, we're not here for my thoughts on this. I've given them previously. What do you know about this one? Do you have any expectations going in when you do get to finally see it in cinemas?
I want it to be everything over the top. Every movie just keeps getting like better, but also worse at the same time. I want this to be the worst one of all of them. I want it to be ridiculous. I want things that are absolutely never gonna. Like, most of these characters should have really died by the fourth movie. Like, there are just singular stunts where they laugh out. You laugh out loud. You can't help yourself.
It's really funny you're saying this because I don't want to spoil anything, but there's a major theme of the movie, and there's a big thing focusing with one of the characters who brings this up quite a lot, and it's like
they actually bring it up in the film.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's like I think it's like I can't tell what they were going for, if they were trying to address the bullshit but try and make it seem believable. Like, I can't tell if they were trying to write a way out of that, or if they were in on the joke and they were trying to make it funny, or like
it's a very in thing to do. That's been a popular thing to do for the last couple of years.
Yeah, but it is funny that you bring that up because there's a whole thing of just being like, why aren't we dead yet? like
I know. I feel this is probably. I mean, like, I think like in the trailer, like I've seen shots where they seem to be in a spaceship vehicle thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't know what to. Spaceship vehicle thing is a correct way of describing it, because it's I don't think this is a big spoiler, but it's a modified car. Like they strap a spaceship rocket to a car, and as I say it, I know how dumb it sounds, but remember, this is Fast and Furious. Like, dumb is right. It's what I specialize in.
You're on the money right there. That's what I want. Give me the extremely unrealistically overly modified vehicle that's gonna potentially project them so far into the stratosphere that they might run into Paul Walker, and that's a really dark joke, but I mean, like, look, that's how intense
again, I don't want to spoil anything, but keep an eye out. This is just predictions. Keep an eye out for Paul. That's all I'll say.
Am I psychic? I feel like that's where this is heading. Wow, but like, I'm impressed.
You'll also be like, that's dumb. Like, the way they approach it, the way they do everything. This one, it's like, I don't know what to say about it without spoiling anything. But look, there are two main elements of this film that should be talked about that I would like to get your opinion on. So a big element of this one is John Cena is revealed as Dom's brother. How do you feel about John Cena as an actor, as everything? What do you reckon of that?
I like John Cena. I think he's a little muffin. And I really enjoy his presence on screen. I've watched, I think, all the movies he's done so far, because we all know he's trying to head down a Dwayne Johnson career path, and I find him very likable. It doesn't mean that he's necessarily fantastic yet, because I can see him, if he's doing pretty well and getting laughs, like, comedy is very hard. So props to him. Give him time and he'll really start to shine. But I like him, and I welcome him in any franchise, really.
Yeah. John Cena's interesting with the Dwayne Johnson element, because he's realized what I think the one who started it was Schwarzenegger with Kindergarten Cop, right? After doing all these big action movies, do a family-friendly one. And Schwarzenegger also went into a few other comedies. Like, there's an amazing story. Yeah, with twins. I don't know if you know the story behind it, but apparently no studio would approve it because they were like, why would anyone want to see Schwarzenegger in a comedy movie? And
why wouldn't they?
Him, Danny DeVito, and the director were like, no, you don't get it. Like, that's why it's going to do amazing. And the only way they could get financing is, I think, they'll finance it themselves mixed with, I think, I'm going to get this wrong, but I believe there was a deal with the distributor where they all got back-end points on the box office. And so when that movie did amazing, they all got even richer and they made all this money. And supposedly that's one of the reasons why most studios refuse to give back-end give points in the back end to a lot of movie stars now, because they saw how much money they lost with twins. And then they
that's really iconic. That's actually
like the only actor I can think of that publicly is referred to who's done that is Robert Downey Jr. with Iron Man. And like since then I'm sure there's others, but I can't think of any that aren't at least, you know. But so the point was, with John Cena, like Dwayne Johnson, it's like they realized the way to get people to like you is like just do a shit ton of comedy movies, make fun of yourself. If you're a real muscly dude, find any way to emasculate you. John Cena kind of, I think, reached the pinnacle of that with Blockers, doing the butt chug scene.
Oh my god, I loved it. I love that movie. But Blockers that really made me take a liking to him. It is. And that was the key moment where I went, this guy, I like him. Keep him coming because he's really enjoyable. And he's actually suits the Fast series perfectly.
Oh, yeah. Like, first of all, it's a franchise where it doesn't require a lot of acting chops. So that's good. No. You just got to be muscular and say a couple cool one-liners here and there, and you're good to go.
If you value family, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Basically.
And they basically just subbed out one wrestler for another, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
The other one is, the other big point of this is Justice for Han. Are you familiar with the Justice for Han movement?
Yes. I'm all for it. I love Han. Who doesn't love Han?
He's back from the dead in this one. I'm not going to spoil it. But last time we saw him, it was in, I guess technically it was Fast 7, but chronologically it's Tokyo Drift.
That's right. Exactly.
And Fast 7 at the same time, where supposedly, what was it? Like he crashes his car in Tokyo Drift, which explodes. But then you find out Shaw, played by Jason Statham, blew up the car, which it's like, the car's already crashed, man. Like, that's overkill.
I know. Can I ask a question? I don't know. You don't have to answer if it's a spoiler, but is there a reasonable explanation? Do they acknowledge it, or do they just brush past it and they're like, he's back?
There is an explanation.
Okay. All right.
But I've seen debate over whether the explanation is good enough because the explanation is definitely unbelievable. Like it's
in true Fast fashion.
It's there's no way that could have happened. But like they really brush over it. They I can tell the attitude's kind of like, just deal with it. He's here, okay? We've given you something, and it's like, okay, whatever. But
oh my god,
there is I don't want to get into it too much without spoiling it.
No, don't.
What can I say? I will say that there's a post-credit sequence that is dedicated to Han trying to get justice, and it sets up the next one, but it left me thinking, oh, they have no plan for this. Like, they don't know what the fuck. The writers don't know what the fuck. They're making this up as they go along. They did not plan this out. It gives me flashbacks to the Disney Star Wars movies where, you know, J.J. Abrams probably had a plan originally, and then all the other directors and Rian Johnson, everyone's just like, yeah, fuck that. We're just going to do whatever we want now. And it's like, oh, no, you hadn't planned this out. Now you're going to spend they're pulling a Lost, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, no. You can feel when that's happening. I think they just thought after Tokyo Drift, that was like a classic trilogy, done, finished. Now they've, more than doubled the series. They've tripled it. So.
Oh, yeah. I don't fully know if what I'm going to say is accurate, but from what I understand, so Vin Diesel used to have a rule. He did no sequels. Now he only does sequels, it seems like.
Oh, my God.
He said he wouldn't come back for Too Fast, Too Furious because I think he said, I might be wrong. I think he said, like, it's not what James Coppola would have done. And it's like, don't compare yourself to him.
Don't, no.
So they made it without him.
Yeah.
And then when they went to do a third one, Paul Walker didn't want to come back. So they got this new guy and blah, blah. But the guy directed that, Justin Lin, who did this one. And I think he did 3, 6, 9... and I think he might have done 4. Anyways, doesn't matter. The point is that the guy who plays Han, whose name is, I'm going to look it up real quick, Sung Kang. He and her, they did like an indie film like way back or something. And he was like,
they're longtime friends.
Yeah, they've been long-time collaborators. And he's like, I'm putting you in this movie. And he gave him, and in this other movie, I forget the name of it, but his character's name is Han as well. And so he's like, retroactively made this film canon with this, even though they have nothing to do with Fast and Furious.
Oh my God.
And
I love that.
You can tell, like, all the movies that he's in, he's tried to give Han a little bit more presence and stuff. It's right that the movie that Justin Lin came back for, he brings back the character of Han, which is really sweet, actually. I like to think if I ever made it as a big Hollywood director, I'd be doing that for my friends. So
yeah. Me too. But Han is very loved. He was always a very popular character, and his screen presence is so, he's captivating on screen. I like him. His attitude and his cool guy, agenda, it works really well.
Snacks, yeah. I'm actually just wondering, I haven't seen him in any other franchise. I'm gonna look it up right now.
I saw him in something semi-recently.
Oh shit! He's gonna be in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series with Disney coming up. That's cool.
Yeah, he's got some.
What else we got here? He's in Power, apparently, the TV series.
Yes.
He's in We Can Be Heroes. He did a voice in Raya and the Last Dragon. So he is pretty active. It looks like.
Yeah. He is. Like his name will pop up in. Yeah. He'll just, I'll see him every now and then in things and go, oh yeah, that's him, that's Han. Like, good for you.
Cool. All right, let's move on.
Cool.
To the first movie I missed from lockdown, which is Space Jam: New Legacy. Adi, why don't you tell us what do you reckon of the first Space Jam first?
Love it. I probably, that VCR probably set alight after the 100th time I put the video in. I can probably remember like half of the script off the top of my head, but it was the best thing ever. I think for kids or adults, people really loved that film. It became almost as iconic as Who Framed Roger Rabbit in a way. Not many films like that with that sort of crossover have been. Yeah.
Yeah, like I would say, like it's definitely. I think it's probably. I don't know if it's as iconic or like revolutionary, but it's probably better.
Yeah.
I would say it's probably better known than Roger Rabbit, especially the newer generation and stuff.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say it is as iconic, but it's almost there. I don't know anyone that's our age that has not seen that film at least 10 times. I know that, Michael Jordan was actually so much fun in that movie, and it made me have this appreciation for basketball that I didn't know that I had. And I understood that whole like crushing on Lola Bunny thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't explain it, but it's a thing. It's a thing.
It's a thing. It's a thing.
Can I ask,
it's
actually?
Fun. It's still, yeah.
Yeah. Were you a netball girl growing up?
Yes, I was. I was very much into netball.
So the main thing with
how did you know that?
No, I'm just because most girls in Australia, I think, were at some point. But like,
yeah.
Netball, you can't travel with the ball like you can in basketball, right? Right.
No, exactly.
Is there any netball movies? I've never seen a movie about netball.
No. You know what? I feel like the stakes just aren't as high because people aren't as financially invested in netball as a sport as basketball.
That's true.
Yeah, you could make a really aggressive...
Yeah.
Yeah. You'd have to take an aggressive route if you were going to make a netball movie because you do kind of get pretty angry while playing that. Because you can't move, I guess.
Bring It On was a movie about cheerleading, and like,
yeah,
is cheerleading even a sport?
Yes, because they're doing full-on gymnastics plus acrobatics and making it a performance at the same time. Yeah, competitively, absolutely. Yeah. People there's a whole thing of it in Australia too. Like, there's actually cheerleading leagues, and they will compete internationally. I know this because of those movies. It made me want to do it, and I think it's kind of an expensive sport because of the travel if you want to get really good and you want to compete on a international scale. Yeah, it's a thing.
How the fuck did we get on this from Space Jam?
I don't know. But Space Jam, I love Space Jam. It's still to this day such an enjoyable movie.
Big part of a lot of our childhoods, I would say. I'm the same. Although I've looked at I haven't watched the movie recently, but I've seen some clips going back, and it doesn't seem as good as I remember. Like, Michael Jordan's clearly not an actor by trade, I think. But like, at the same time, it's like, how many movies back then were entirely made of green screen? Like, they were doing some pretty revolutionary shit.
They were.
Yeah.
I guess it didn't age the best. Like, it didn't age as good, but it's one of those movies where if you have the nostalgia factor, you're always gonna have a solid appreciation for it. But if you're watching it with a fresh pair of eyes now, it might be a bit difficult to get through just because you're so accustomed to these amazing high budget movies.
Yeah. Have you heard the story about how that movie got made?
No.
So apparently, and this is, I don't know if it's before my time, but I was clearly too young to remember, but I stumbled upon this not long ago. Apparently there was a commercial for, like, I think it was like a Jordan sneaker or something where, what was it? I think, no, it wasn't even a commercial. I think it was like a print ad, and it had like, it had Michael Jordan with Godzilla or something, but there was some crossover with Bugs Bunny, and then they made a commercial out of it that was animated, and then there was such hype about it, and they were like, oh my god, you should make a movie out of it, and then they fucking did, and then it came out for like a Nike commercial or something. Yeah, which is kind of like, I love that. When you think about how commercialized it is, it's like crossing over brands and stuff. It's
a giant ad, basically.
It's a giant ad, which is a great segue into Space Jam: New Legacy, because it also feels like a giant ad. Like, I haven't seen the movie. I have heard drips here and there. I had seen some clips that was put on TikTok or whatever, but it just seems like Warner Brothers advertising. Look at all these other movies we have. We've got The Matrix. We've got Rick and Morty. We've got. It's like look at this huge synergy crossover potential. It feels a little gross to me, but I guess it's in the DNA of the franchise.
It is. It's important to remember that. I heard someone said to me, I think a friend of ours said that if you're gonna enjoy it if you are an OG fan, like, it's sort of it's like a fan service sequel sort of thing. So if you haven't seen it and you go in with like a naked eye to what it comes from, you're probably not going to enjoy it so much.
Yeah, see, I look at this and I think, who is the audience? Like, who are they making this for? Because I don't know if it is for an OG fan, because the OG fans have grown up, right? They're like our age or something. Do we want to watch a kid's movie that is just silly and probably filled with fart jokes? Probably not, right?
Yes.
Okay, so don't get me wrong.
Sometimes. Yeah.
Like a Pixar film is technically a kid's film, but it's some of the best writing and voice acting and everything you'll see out there, right?
Yeah.
But like
you mean cheese, like kids' cheese.
Yeah, like kids' cheese. I feel like based on clips I've seen online, like there's a terrible Matrix parody scene which feels like it came from 1999. It's like, okay, so that's not for me. So what is for me? What are you trying to appeal to me? Like, I guess if you're a basketball fan, you want to see LeBron, that's cool. But all that's left is the cameos, you know, and the franchise and stuff. But I've got this problem with a lot of movies these days. Like, they're not doing them right. Like, Ready Player One, for example. I remember everyone be like, oh my God, there's the Iron Giant. I'm like, oh, cool. And you watch it and like the Iron Giant's in it for like 3 seconds of screen time. In the background. It's kind of like, well, what am I getting out of that? It's like, oh, look, I know him. You're not doing anything with that. You're not making any interesting commentary. I'm not getting anything out of it, you know? So
I so agree. When I went into that, the most fun of the whole thing was just waiting for tiny little pop culture references that I appreciated, like the DeLorean to pop up. But I felt, even with all of that being thrown into it, I felt no connection to it. And I remember, this is why I try to avoid too many reviews, because before I saw that, I read that it got a 12-minute standing ovation at Sundance.
I swear to God, every film gets a 12-minute standing ovation at Sundance. I've seen that written about so many fucking movies. It's lost all meaning.
Do they plant these people so everyone else feels like they're out of place, so they all just get up and they're like, okay, we're just going to do this now?
Honestly, probably. I was reading an article today about crisis actors that are paid. Like, it's some weird, this is so off topic, but I was reading some article today about actors that were spotted at anti-vax and anti-mask rallies in America, and they pulled up their IMDb profiles next to them. And I guess you are allowed to be an actor and have a political opinion. That is okay. But like, there was like so many, there was more than 20 on one page. And they're like, this person's at rallies 5 days a week. And I'm not saying this is from a reliable source or anything, but I was looking at it, I'm like, shit, this could be a thing. Like, so
there's crisis actors and there's applauding at Sundance actors who are in some database. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But also, when you're like that famous or that well respected, like Spielberg, people are going to applaud you. No matter.
It's like disrespectful not to.
And people will give the same ovation, you know?
Yeah.
Not saying that's a bad movie. I thought it was all right.
Yeah, it was fine.
It captured that classic Spielberg kids movie vibes, so that was kind of
like the vibe,
which is kind of cool. Like, remember watching E.T. or whatever, or any of those, or Jurassic Park, where it's like the kids are, you know, they're on the run from the authorities and they're trying to save the world. Like, you had that, and like that's cool, but like, it wasn't. I wouldn't say it's in his top 5 best films.
No,
But for New Legacy, I look at that and I'm just like, yeah, I think you're missing out on the cameo stuff. I haven't seen the movie, obviously, but like, it doesn't look particularly good. Like, it's like, I look at Don Cheadle being the bad guy. I'm like, oh, Don, I love you, but you're I don't like this look on you, buddy. Like, the whole And look, it's getting negative reviews, so I'm not surprised.
I think I'm going to, my prediction, the way I will receive it is probably, I think they might forget a little bit about the fact that millennials were the ones who this really is targeting, and they're going to be lacking in something to connect to us with. I don't know, just for that nostalgia factor. Maybe they're going to try to modernize it a bit too much where it's going to feel out of reach for the original fans. It is a niche movie to bring back, so you do have to accommodate for the fans.
Oh yeah, this movie exists because of the internet memes out there. That's the only reason. People, there were rumors about this for ages. I will give one compliment, so I'm not so bad. I'm a big fan of like animation and stuff, and the 2D animation looks great. But I'm surprisingly cool with the 3D models of bugs and all that. I like how it's they're not too realistic, but they're still true to the character. I think that looks kind of cool, but yeah,
I agree. Okay. Doesn't take away from it too much.
Yeah. let's move on to... And we're back. What do you mean we're back? We were just talking about Space Jam. Well, that was almost 2 weeks ago.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, so ladies and gentlemen at home, we are continuing this. Since then, the lockdown's been further extended, and we had to stop for some technical issues last time. But we're going to finish the rest of this episode talking about things we'll miss throughout August, and maybe we'll do a few more of these later. Like I said before, it's a test episode. We've tried to look the same, but I have this. Yeah, I have this lockdown beard. I have not shaved in maybe 2 months. This is the most homeless I've ever looked.
That's a pretty solid effort, I have to say.
It is, but I feel like a stray dog.
I also haven't shaved in about 2 months, but I didn't really get any growth, so it's kind of sad.
Wow. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen, right there. Okay, so we talked about Fast 9. We talked about Space Jam New Legacy, both which have come out. The next one we've got on our list is Snake Eyes, G.I. Joe Origins, or G.I. Joe Origins Snake Eyes. I don't fucking know. At time of recording this, I don't think it's come out yet. It's definitely not in Sydney. But yeah, AD, tell me, what is your experience with the G.I. Joe franchise?
I remember as a kid always hearing about G.I. Joe, and sometimes I think on daytime TV they would play the old cartoon movies, like the 80s, like the original one, and then but I never really paid too much attention to it. And then I remembered seeing G.I. Jane with Demi Moore like forever ago, which I knew was the female version.
Wait, is that a cartoon or a movie? I actually don't know anything about it. Okay.
It's a movie. But the thing is, I don't remember if it has anything to do with like the legitimate G.I. Joe storyline. They just made it a female version with the name. Yeah. But then the last time was the Channing Tatum movie. Do you remember that one?
Yeah. So I've seen the first one, but I haven't seen the second one. I'm told the second one is the better one.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah. But I don't remember the first one very well. I know thinking it was kind of okay. It was a bit generic. Apparently it's by the guy who directed The Mummy and The Mummy Returns.
I did not know that.
Yeah, which is kind of like a mind fuck. And I believe the guy who played Imhotep is in it.
He is. Yeah. I remember, yeah. He will always be Imhotep forever. Yeah. Like, there's nothing he can do about that, but that's fine.
So good. But yeah, I don't remember much about it at all. But I remember everyone said, like, it was around that time that Dwayne Johnson was, like, the Viagra for franchises. Like, he would just send them back. And so, from my understanding, I've missed out on the good one. But
Me too.
Yeah. So you didn't see the second one?
No, I don't think. If I did, I don't remember, which is... I don't even know. Maybe it's like a thing of time as opposed to it wasn't good. I just don't remember straight up.
Yeah, I know. I was watching a video on YouTube not long ago and they were talking about it. And apparently Channing Tatum, he comes back in the sequel for like 1 or 2 scenes and he gets killed almost straight away. And he's sort of like is replaced by Dwayne Johnson, which is kind of like random. And yeah, it's kind of weird, but also as a kid, I was like the same, like I never really saw it. But I think it was that and He-Man. I had a cousin who had all these like toys for it. Yeah. And I got some hand-me-downs or whatever. But what do you reckon of this trailer? Snake Eyes.
I thought it was actually pretty badass. Like it was better than what I was expecting. And they've given him a whole new, like a different origin story because it's in Japan, right? And he's originally American. I feel like...
I think like the movie took place in America. Oh my God. We don't know. I'll just be honest. We both know nothing about G.I. Joe, do we?
I don't know that much, but I have done that like sort of Wikipedia-ing Google little like rabbit hole thing. I'm pretty dead set this is an entirely new origin story. And I remembered reading a really cool fact about Snake Eyes' suit. You know how it's all black?
Yeah.
Apparently that happened because back in the 80s, there was a manufacturing error and all of his action figures came out just pure black, but they didn't want to pay any more money to redo it. So they just were like, screw this, we're going to make him black, and that's it.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. I thought that was really cool.
I love little factoids like that, like video games and manufacturing or whatever, like what was it, like the way they designed Mario is because you couldn't tell his face, so they gave him a mustache, and the reason he wears overalls is so you could tell his arms are separate to his body, like like little like weird facts like that I always think are like really fascinating.
It's pretty cool. I think this movie might be a nice surprise. I think that it's I don't know, it doesn't tick too many of the typical boxes. I feel like it's quite fresh. Like it's a nice new take on it.
Look, the action scenes look cool, but that's all. Like, I have no particular feeling towards this franchise. It's one of those weird scenarios where it's like this movie would have made more sense if it came out 10 years ago. Like, it's a weird origin story to a franchise not that many people are invested in.
True.
These days.
Like, yeah, and outside of America especially. I think what I took away from the Channing Tatum one was like, Channing Tatum, muscles, America, jet planes. And that's all I remember. So this one seems really polar opposite to that.
Amazing.
Which is why it feels way... I don't know. I'm more intrigued to watch this one.
Fuck yeah. So moving on to Candyman. Candyman is I don't think it's a remake. It's like a reboot or whatever you want to call it. But from my understanding, it takes elements of the original 90 movies. But I don't know. I've never actually seen a Candyman film. Have you?
I never watched any because I remember when you used to get videos from Blockbuster and they would have trailers in the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
I remember one time the Candyman trailer came up and it scared me so much that for the rest of my life, I never touched any of those movies.
Wow.
Yeah. Although at sleepovers, people would dare you to say it in the mirror.
Oh,
sort of like the Bloody Mary thing. I was never game enough. I was like, I've seen that trailer. I know how this ends. I'm good. Thank you very much.
What came first, Bloody Mary or Candyman?
I think maybe Bloody Mary was a thing long before Candyman was. Maybe that even
They probably got it
inspired
from there. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you reckon of the trailer?
It looks pretty damn interesting. I like the angle that it's taken, but I really hope that it goes closer to the lines of Get Out than Us. I just felt like Get Out really was just an all-round thriller and you're on the edge of your seat. And then Us sort of tried to have, for me, like too much of a twist and it sort of worked against it in a way. So maybe I really hope that this one's just pure scariness.
It's funny, like, because Jordan Peele's attached, like, your mind goes in all sorts of directions, right? Because he really did change the game, I think, not just for, like, African Americans in horror, but the modern day horror as well. Like, horror's automatically become so much more interesting now when they have this other level of social commentary or something with them. And I think we grow to expect something, and Jordan Peele's to blame for that in all the best ways. like, you know, not just how like Get Out is about like the black experience and in a white world, but then you got like stuff like, I don't know, The Invisible Man, how it's like a new take on domestic violence, and like I know he didn't just start that, like a lot of other filmmakers tackled it, but and so I'm with you where I'd love it to have some take on that. I don't think the originals did much, although other than it's from this poor area in Chicago, and they go into a bit of how I think thematically there are some themes there, but from my understanding it's a bit surface level. I'm hoping they dig under that. In the trailer they do talk about how there's like some police brutality situation going on there, and it's like I'm all for that stuff. I really think that could be really nice sewed in. As for this director, I'm not familiar. I don't think I'm very familiar with this. I'm just going to pull him up because I forget his name. But I have heard good stuff.
I was going to say too, I fully agree. When there's...
Oh, sorry, it's a female, sorry. Yeah, and she did Little Woods. Sorry, go on. And she's directing The Marvels. That's where I've heard of her from, which is the new Captain Marvel sequel. Yeah.
Okay.
So clearly a rising star in Hollywood.
Yes. Yeah. That sounds really amazing. I think that when you actually do feel like you're witnessing something pretty real, like it feels like a real town, like real people, that makes it 50 times scarier for me.
And atmosphere's like all about horror, right? Like, horror's all about atmosphere, and so we can establish that world. It's really great. Something I'm really excited for is I can never pronounce his name right, but I will try. Yahya Abdul-Mateen II. He is an amazing actor. Oh yeah, it's a mouthful, and I know I got it wrong. I'm really bad at names. But he's been in a lot of things where he's been like one of my favorites. Like he was in The Trial of Chicago 7. He was in Aquaman. He was in the new Watchmen show, which I haven't seen, but I hear is really good. And of course he's in Us. And so anything that he's attached, I'm on board.
He's had a really great run and such a diverse set of movies he's been in already.
Oh yeah, like even just really what cool. I listed there, like those are all such different projects. Going back to what you said about Us versus Get Out, which I think is a really interesting conversation. I think what works for Get Out is that it's mostly one idea. It's a couple other things, but it's one main theme, and it's from start to finish. With Us, it's a little bit more subtext, which leaves a little bit more open to the imagination, and there's a lot more ideas involved, and so I do think it becomes a bit messy.
Agreed.
Which people who are into like fan theories and stuff fucking live for that shit.
Yeah.
But I'm not really one of those people. I like it when the vision of the director is super clear and I fully understand what was intended rather than the guesswork. Like I don't want it to... Yeah. But can create interesting conversations, but whatever. But Us, I think, is a more of a fun film. Because
that's an interesting take on it. It was more family fun. I just felt like it was split into 3 incredibly separate acts that if you had cut it into thirds, it could have been a different movie each time. And I felt like I lost that horror aspect in the first act that I wanted to carry through to the third. So with Candyman, I hope that it's that one storyline. If they're like just, sometimes less is more.
I have a feeling this is based off what I little know about the first movie. I think that was told through a perspective of like it's like a mystery that's being unraveled type thing. Yeah. I'm getting the same vibe from this. Although something I did talk about in the previous back of Midnight Double Feature, with the first trailer comparing to the second, they look like 2 different movies. Because in the first trailer, they focus more on there's a group of like these white girls who are like in front of the mirror and stuff. And in the first trailer, they seem like the main characters. In the second trailer, it looks like a whole different cast. Like they're more focused on these African American protagonists. So I have a feeling maybe the first trailer, with a lot of those white girls, I imagine they're probably not going to be as important as the first trailer made out to be. But it's just funny that you brought that up with Us, because to me, the way those trailers are cut, they look like they're almost 2 separate films as well.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting. But look, I think I'm a stand for Jordan Peele. So if he's producing this, if he's attached, I'm on board. And
absolutely.
This director, what was her name? It's Nia DaCosta. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Jordan Peele is also a writer, so obviously on board. But
he'll have a big influence for sure.
Oh, and you can feel it just in the even like I know what it is. That there's an element of the cinematography, the visuals.
Yeah,
it's there. But
almost straight away, and I love that in 2 films you can already tell like this is a Peele film, which is really cool. I think the originals were definitely in that whole 90s white, like damsels in distress sort of thing, and like stabby stab, oh scary. Like I feel like that was just the whole vibe of the original, and this one is different. Like this has some sort of 7 elements to it.
Yeah, like it's hard with the original because I don't know so little about them, but I know most of the sequels were direct to DVD. I think there's one or two
Yeah.
theatrical releases, but it was kind of like the thing about Candyman is it's the black slasher. You know, it's one of the, he's the only like African American sort of killer in that, and I think that had some relevance. But I think it's even more relevant now because now that we're in this era of, you know, with what the culture is like, and now with how our films now dive into these more deeper themes, it's more accessible to the audience.
For sure.
I think there's a lot of potential here, and I'm really on board. And I just want to say again, this director, she is on my radar now, because once you're given a Marvel film,
that means you're doing something pretty damn right.
Disney are very particular with the directors they pick now, and they get really different abstract people. Like the Chloe, I forget her name, the one who's directing Eternals. Like, I know they're over the moon because it's their first Oscar winner. And like, but they picked her before she won the Oscar, and you just know they've got this crackpot team.
Chloe Zhao?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. That, you know, the way they're picking their directors now, it's so like, it's like sniper precision. Like they picked up Taika Waititi, they picked up James Gunn, and overnight they're like everybody's new favorite director, you know?
So true. I'm really loving it though, because it's really adding some much needed spice into what I feel like is a very commonly used recipe in mainstream movies. I love Taika too. Like that, he's such a great example.
It's funny, like you said about Marvel, because it's so relevant for the slasher genre as well. Like that was a dead subgenre of horror films, but I loved it. As cheesy as it was, like the 80s, 90s, whatever. And I'm all for it, and I love that it's coming back. Like after Halloween, just fucking killed. Like how good was Halloween, right?
I know,
so good. And now we got this. We got a new Scream coming up, which I don't know what to think of it.
I saw. I'm always going to watch. I'm always going to. I actually really enjoyed the last reboot.
Scream 4?
Yeah, a lot more than I thought I was going to.
Scream 4 is so underrated. I fucking love Scream 4, and no one gives it the time of day. Like I
don't.
With the Scream 4, like I get it. It's kind of like it's a reboot that's parodying reboots, but they were like as a very specific type of reboot, like the 2010s. But what I love, this is a thing about that movie. If you watch it again, look out for this, because everyone overlooks this, right? Around the time that movie came out, you had like Rob Zombie's Halloween films. You had like The Hills Have Eyes. Like there was a point where horror movies were like, they were really pushing the boundaries of how fucked up you could get. And like they were always just trying to like make you freak out. And it was kind of a weird time of Hollywood too, because then you were getting like a lot more rape scenes in horror films, and they were crossing the line. I think Saw kind of just like opened the floodgates, and everybody just went like crazy, and they went way worse than what Saw did. But what I love with Scream 4 is at the end, it feels a little bit like a 90s, early 2000s horror film, and then like you think it's over, and then the girl gets up, you find out she's the killer, and she starts like trying to break her own bones. And then all of a sudden, like the color grading changes, the vibe changes, and it starts getting more, I don't want to say modern, but more of that time, of that era. And then the rest of the film, like it just gets grittier, it gets more dark in the last 20 minutes, and you can literally watch the the tone of the film change over the last 20 minutes. And I remember noticing that in the cinema and being like, this is a fucking masterpiece. I haven't seen it in so long, so maybe it doesn't hold up the way I remember. But for me, that was like one of those early moments in like my teenage years where I was like noticing like cinematic techniques and what was inspiring me to get into filmmaking. And I will defend Scream 4 so hard because I love that movie so much.
So will I. It's so underrated. That was one of the first examples of a sequel / reboot where they were very well aware of all of their typical tropes and what made it cheesy, but they took it and owned it and made it so awesome. And I think that will always make for a great, great sequel or reboot, is when they acknowledge all of those things and they're not like afraid to incorporate all of it. It's so good. Yeah, it's like this is the stuff that I love talking about podcasts, like the craft of the little like when you pick up on those moments, that's what gets really excited. That's why I love talking more about like after you've seen the movie than the trailer, because right now we're just doing guesswork.
Let's actually just, as it's a good segue, so let's move into Don't Breathe 2, because the first one was a real kind of like slasher. This one's taken a weird new direction.
It has. Like, he's like not really the bad guy now.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm on board for this one. So, so the first one, I fucking loved it. I loved, around this time, we were getting movies like Don't Breathe, Lights Out. It follows.
Lights Out, so good. Yes.
Oh, what's the sequel that just came out? John Krasinski.
Quiet Place.
Quiet Place, yeah, Quiet Place. And then you also get, I think it was like Harsh Will. All these films are about like dealing with your senses. Oh, and also, what's the Netflix, the blind one with Sandra Bullock?
Bird
Box. Yeah, like all these films, they're always playing your senses, right? And Lights Out was like one of the first ones that did it really well, where it's like they can't see.
Still gives me chills when I think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and the way that they work with like audio mixing and all that sound, so good. They made him out to be like a really great villain. They had a really great location. The ending scene with the turkey baster was a little bit might have been a little bit too gross for me, but I do remember thinking, even on my second time watching it, thinking like as a fight going on in my head where I'm like, okay, I don't enjoy this. I don't like it. It's making me feel uncomfortable. But is that a bad thing? Because it's a horror movie. Is it the director's job to make me feel these things? And I don't know how I feel about that, because on one hand, it's like, this is gross, this is fucked up, I don't want to see it. But it's like, well, I've been okay with people getting murdered for the last hour and a half. So.
Yeah, that's true. I think if you were to say that to him, he would probably feel like he did his job. There is a line between something like, Human Centipede 2, where it's just shock value to it's just to make you feel ill.
Yeah.
And then there's the way that they do something like Don't Breathe, when you feel uncomfortable, but there's like a reason. There's an actual reason for it.
Like, he didn't just go out of nowhere and just start being a sexual deviant. He was like, so that's a nice way to put it. Like, there was stuff to his character, and there were like a reason for it, but you got to remember that was super fucked up. And then you look at this trailer, and it's like he's John McClane in Die Hard. Like,
I know, and I watched it and I was like, hang on 1 second, is this going where I think it's going? Because I don't know how they're gonna go back down that hole and like come out the other end with some shining light on this guy. I don't understand.
It feels like to me that this is not a writer's choice. This is the studio's choice. I feel like it's a bunch of rich investors trying to protect their investment, sitting around a table going, we need another franchise. What do we got? Well, Don't Breathe is great. Good, make it a franchise. Okay, so like we killed everybody. He should be the main character. So make the killer the main character. It's like, okay, but he's an evil person. I don't know. Find a way to make him likable. And I think that's what they're trying to do here. And I can see how, I can already see the storyline. It's like, well, he wanted a daughter because he's lost his daughter. So now he's met this other random girl. He's going to protect her. So it's going to be like, it's a surrogate daughter situation. Like, the whole idea of badass old man with little girl sidekick is becoming a really popular writers thing. I feel like it started with this video. You could do that.
I feel like Kick-Ass was a big one. Yeah.
I feel like a big pusher of it was, it's not even a movie, but there's this hugely successful video game called The Last of Us. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it was this older guy and a little girl, and like it wasn't his daughter because he lost his daughter, but like they went on an adventure together. And then like I remember seeing
wounds.
Writes itself. Yeah. And then and then I think not long after that we got Logan with Hugh Jackman, and it's like, oh, it's the same movie. It's in the apocalypse and shit, and old guy, little girl, and then there's another example.
If we go way back, there's also Leon the Professional. That was like that's sort of like the
I guess
maybe like.
Yeah, I guess it's not like it hasn't been done before.
But there was some momentum that picked up around that time.
There's an uptick.
That has continued. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like they want to do that here, but it's like, fellas, this is not the franchise you do that with. Like, you've taken everything that made the original great and you're ignoring it, I feel. Like, what made it great was this, you don't know much about him. He's just this dangerous, scary guy, and you don't want to be caught when everyone's quiet and stuff. And they're just like, okay, ignore all that shit. Now he's working with someone. Now we're going to spend more time with him, so he's less of a mystery. And we're going to get into his emotional character depth and arc. It's like, that's not why I like the movie. I like the movie for when you were quiet and you didn't know what was going to happen. When it was fucking people up and it was in the darkness. But now you're all like, oh yeah, but like, here's his new stepch kid. No.
I liked it when I couldn't breathe, damn it. I want to not be able to breathe again, thanks. I think, personally, I reckon there's a few ways this could go. One, they're doing it like this for pure shock value. Like, we live in the era of the death of the author, right, where nothing's original anymore. This might just be a way for them to do something different. Or...
No, I don't think... Sorry, go on.
It's okay. Or you've seen recuts on YouTube, right? When people take clips from movies and turn a horror into a comedy.
Yes.
Or the opposite. They could actually have edited this trailer and made it look one way, but it might be completely different.
So you think it might not be a horror? Like, it's a coming of age film?
Honestly, who knows? Maybe he really is evil, and maybe the trailer is what's going on in his head, but when we get into the film, it's not actually that way, and he's still really quite evil. Or maybe
that would be better.
Maybe he still is evil, and he tries to, like, you try to see into his psyche, but he's still just bad, and it's up to the girl to, finish it. I don't know.
I think if you made this young girl the final girl, like she's the one that survives him, that would be kind of cool, because I think like with horror movies is that classic power dynamic. This big towering masculine monster, small little, virgin girl who's, oh my God. And then like when she finally beats him, it's, oh my God, Jason, can you stop? Jason, you like totally stabbed all my friends. How dare you?
Oh my God, I'm going to tweet about this. Yeah, 100%.
I'd watch that. No, but like, it's the flip of the power dynamic. So when she finally defeats him, it's like, yeah, hero's journey. By having someone so young against this older guy, it gives us like an extra power thing. So
the power dynamic becomes more intense.
It could make the stakes bigger. It could have been like an interesting film that did something with this was it's a direct-to-DVD, but it shouldn't have been. When they sort of brought back Chucky with Curse of Chucky, the doll, what happened was trapped in a house, a doll and a disabled girl in a wheelchair. And so she literally couldn't run away from him. She could like crawl, but like he always had the upper hand. And it's like, I remember that thinking, that's genius, because how do you make a little fucking doll scary? It's really hard. They literally gave up and made 2 comedies because it's so hard to...
Yes, which I actually really enjoy.
So I think you're saying is a kind of a cool idea of if she's like the one that survives and stuff. But I don't think the studio is that smart. I don't think they're that smart. Well, I think they're going to shit the bed on this one.
We're going to have to wait and see, because last week I watched a movie called Becky with Kevin James. Okay. And it's almost, it's similar, right? So she goes away to a camping weekend with her dad and his new fiance, who she hates because her mum passed away, blah, blah, blah. She's only like 12. She runs away from the house because she's annoyed. They end up getting held hostage by these like neo-Nazis who have just broken out of prison, and Kevin James is the bad guy.
Okay.
Like he's the, didn't really buy him as him, but that's fine. Anyway, she was just so full of anger and that childhood creativity, the ways that she attacks and like defends her family are super fucked up. Like,
oh
after watching that-
is this the one that has? So yeah, so I'm thinking of James Spader, Kevin James and King of Queens, Kevin James, right?
Yeah.
I remember
Blood
this
Mall
trailer.
Cop.
I remember thinking, this movie is like it's like a slasher Home Alone or something.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's like that.
She
Except
comes up with traps and shit to fight back, right?
yeah,
I
in
remember
the
this
trailer,
one.
it actually gave hints of comedy, but it was not funny. Like, it was not funny at all. It's actually really intense. You should give it a go. I think based on that, they might try to take a similar route, because the trailer was it gave off different vibes than what you get, and then that actually increases the shock value way more, because you're waiting for this haha, and it doesn't come. You're just like, oh my god. So yeah,
I don't think I'm sold.
theory.
It's a theory. It's a theory. Look, I hope you're right, because if the movie is like what the trailer is, I'm really disappointed, because
I agree.
It feels like they are making a mindless sequel with like this additional agenda without taking in consideration what made the first one great. Like the best example of this, I don't know if you saw it, but The Predator, the most recent one.
Actually didn't.
Well, good. It's not great, but what it is an action adventure film, an action adventure sci-fi film where the lead character is like this little autistic boy who's got, but they have this whole thing about how autism is like superpowers. I know it seems kind of disrespectful, and there's got so many jokes and comedy and stuff in it. But you got to remember, the original one was an action thriller starring Arnold Schwarzenegger.
That's right.
And
completely opposite. Yeah.
And the way they end the film, like they go with this Marvel route of like this guy gets like his own Predator suit with like laser cannons attached, and it's like they're trying to set up this Marvel-esque action adventure franchise. But it's like, and then there's little alien dogs they have, and it's like,
what?
You totally are ignoring everything that made the Predator good. And look, I remember Zohib and we still enjoyed it, because for an action adventure film, it's fun. It's flawed, but it's fun. But it's like, I remember watching it with a friend of the show, Jesse, who's a huge Predator fan. I watched it with him, and he's just like, he hated it. He's like, this is not what I want from a Predator film. And I remember thinking, like, you're right. It's got almost nothing to do with Predator, and they
just used the name and tried to capitalize off of that. It's like one of those ones where it should have just been separate. Like, people would have been happy if you just separated it, probably, from the franchise.
It's tough to take a film and make a sequel in a new genre and keep the fans on board, especially when it's so different. Like, you look at, I hate to use Chucky's example, but we're just talking about it like that. You can sort of see it turn into a comedy, because it's like, it's dull. So the 80s were already cheesy slashes. It was already kind of funny. And you can see like Thor Ragnarok, that's a bit of comedy. Well, the others had comedy in it. Marvel films already did. But if you took like, I don't know, doing a sequel to The Shawshank Redemption, and you tried to make like American Pie, you're going to annoy some of the original fans,
Oh, so badly. My favorite example of this is The Mummy. Oh my god. Yeah. Like, I had heard that a producer came out and said that The Mummy that Tom Cruise was originally attached to, that one, was 80% different before he came along and changed the script so that he could be running every 2 seconds and being Tom Cruise. And I just like, why use the name? Just don't. Do your own thing.
Well, that's what happens when you have these mega stars that are also producers. Like, a Will Smith film almost always feels like a Will Smith film. Tom Cruise films feel like Tom Cruise films. Dwayne Johnson films usually feel like Dwayne Johnson films. As a result, a lot of these big, really big stars,
that one really
when they're attached to films, I get hesitant. To tentpole blockbuster films, I get hesitant, because you're going to kind of get the same thing. Well, anyways, let's move on to the second last one we have left, and that's The Suicide Squad. Yes. Now, at the time of recording this, we should make it very clear that if for some reason someone like me or someone has seen the film through other means, like we would never do that. We would never, ever do that, because we would never want to encourage illegally watching films.
That's right.
But if theoretically one of us did do that, they probably wouldn't say too much about the film. Other than I thought the trailer was really great. I love James Gunn. I love the cast attached.
Yeah.
But Adrianne, I think I've talked and said everything I need to say. What are your expectations going into the Suicide Squad? And what did you think of the last one as well?
The last one for me was another Godzilla situation where they sold Jared Leto being in the whole thing, and I waited and I waited and I waited and I waited, like when you go to the doctors and your appointment takes 3 hours to get into. I was so disappointed by that because I really wanted him to be in a lot of it. Otherwise,
you're a big Jared Leto fan, hey?
Yeah, I am a big Jared Leto fan, but I'm also a big Joker fan, and I really wanted him around, but that's okay. It was alright. Like, I wasn't blown away, but I didn't fully hate it. Oh my god, I remember now what I really hated, though. Okay, what? I absolutely, with every fiber of my being, hated Cara Delevingne's character. What was her name?
The Enchantress. Oh. The Enchantress.
Ugh, I just couldn't. I literally couldn't. Everything became a joke whenever she was on screen. I don't know what it was.
She was always like, hello.
It was laughable.
And moving like a weirdo. Fucking.
I don't know. I just couldn't take it seriously. I understand that it's, it's a comic book and you're going to have to try to make these characters as close to however you can in real life. But I just couldn't take it seriously. And I just wasn't buying her performance either.
Look, you could probably say that about a few of her performances, but that movie is amazing. Like, I love films that have complete disasters behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I love analyzing every little thing. I like going in. And yeah, like apparently the script was written while pre-production was happening. They had 6 months and then they were shooting straight away. They captured over 200 hours of footage in the can. Halfway through production, they're like, you have to make it a comedy. And because, Batman v Superman, Zack Snyder's universe was super dark and serious. And then, that fucking bombed. And then they edited, some trailer company cut that second trailer, which was amazing, to the Queen song. And then they're like, you have to make the movie like this. And David Ayer's like, that's nothing what the movie's like. Supposedly,
I don't know how he survived. I would have just had a breakdown constantly.
Dude, not only did he survive, but he pretended for like 2-3 years straight that this is always my vision. And it's like, dude, we know you can say it. Like, we've seen the movies you make. He was clearly brought on because he's done a lot of movies about like a military unit together.
Yeah.
And they wanted to probably make like a military film. And, that's definitely not what it is. It's nothing like that. And I feel sorry for him.
Me too. The only person who gets to really understand and like listen to how he feels is his therapist. Because honestly, if that was me, I'd still be ranting. I'd be like, I can't believe I had to do this and put up with this. And like, it's not fair. And what happened to what could have been?
I remember the first time watching it in cinemas. I thought it was okay. And then I watched the second time it still was in cinemas. And I was like, oh no, it's bad. I realized the reason I thought it was okay is the entire first act, which is probably about half an hour long. In order to get through a lot of long, probably scenes that went for like 5 minutes, they were cutting down to like 10 seconds. And they would do this through fast editing. There's like, they had a lot of Skrillex music and 21 Pilots and all this like really pop music going on and trying to like move things around and keep it moving. But you could tell it was lit to be a very dark and serious scene. Like they're like, what if Superman rips the roof off the White House? In the background, it's like, bang, bang, boom, boom, chicka, chicka, boom, boom. It's like, what the fuck is happening? And I said for a while, and the really only reason that movie kind of survived is because of Harley Quinn. Margot Robbie's performance as Harley Quinn.
Yes, 100%.
But like, still, like they treated her like character like just a piece of meat. Honestly, apparently, in some scenes they use CGI to make her shorts shorter. And I love seeing these other movies. How like it seems to be like every movie now they try and put more and more clothes on her, like just like make up for it.
Yeah, that's true.
But she was great. But the marketing around that movie was so fucked. Like like Jared Leto appeared as the Joker in the Skrillex music video attached to it.
Yeah.
And he had more screen time in that than in the whole fucking movie.
That's why I was sitting there and I was like, here we go. I was like, this is going to be so, like, just great. Like, I don't care whatever over-the-topness happens. It's still going to be great because I love most of the actors and the characters, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah. I guess that's what happens when, like, your whole film just eats shit. Like, it's kind of crazy they didn't just make the Joker the villain. It would have just been somewhat simpler. But
true.
From what we know, there was a subplot, and the subplot was about Harley Quinn's getting over the Joker, and at the end, like, he tries to win her back, and it was all about, like, overcoming abuse and shit, which is cool, but we'll never see that movie.
No.
Twitter's all, like, released the Ayer cut. I don't know if we'll ever see it because
maybe one day they'll accept their mistake and just release it. The best way I can give an analogy for the Suicide Squad is, you know, when you're in primary school and you have to do a really big project and your mum's like, no, do it this way. And then your dad's like, no, do it this way, it'll be better. And then you're like, you know what? I don't care anymore. You guys can do my project. They're going to know that I didn't do it, but you can do it anyway. That's exactly what the Suicide Squad is.
Poor David Ayer, you know? He didn't even choose those paints.
If I ever meet him, I'm gonna look him in the eye. I'm going to give him a really big embrace. I'm going to say it's okay.
I think I would love to see his cut, but I'll say the same thing I said about Justice League before we got the cut. I still won't like the movie because what's there isn't great. Yeah. But it is nice to see where the Lego pieces were supposed to fit, where they were supposed to go. And I don't think it's his fault it's bad because clearly he was rushed to do everything anyways.
Yeah.
It's probably the first draft is what they shot.
Oh my God.
Like probably because you just look at it, it's like this is not a script that they had time to work with. It's very
bad.
Yeah. But what I do think is interesting, and this segue into the new Suicide Squad, clearly what they were like is like, okay, make this like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, that's it.
And so now we have the guy who did Guardians of the Galaxy actually doing Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. So what are your hopes? What are your dreams? What do you think of the new one coming out or that's come out?
I actually don't think I found a fault at all. I don't think it's going to disappoint. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think the writing is going to be witty and the gritty and the dark parts are going to go all the way. It's going to be the best of both worlds. And I'm really excited to go deeper into these characters too. I feel like they're going to become household characters, like really loved. So, yeah.
I think the intention is definitely with Peacemaker, played by John Cena, because there is a TV show coming out that's being produced. Not sure. I think it's produced by James Gunn.
Okay.
I think he might have done some writing for it. So you're going to see him a lot more.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Yeah. And you can tell John Cena wants that to happen because for every interview, he went in the costume. Like he went on. Yeah, really I'm not sure I don't know if it was like Jimmy Kimmel or Jimmy Fallon or one of the fucking Jimmys. But he showed up, like everyone's all dressed nice and he's just there. And he's like, I'm not taking off the suit. Like
that's pretty awesome. I respect
if I take it off, they're going to make me give it back. So he was on the red carpet in costume, everything. And it's a fucking ridiculous suit. Like it looks like, he looks like a walking action figure. But
I suppose that's sort of his goal though. Like really.
Oh yeah. That is one of the great things about James Gunn's take on suicide. Hell, James Gunn's take on superhero movies, regardless, is like he sets up a world where anything can happen.
Yeah.
And so if they want to go crazy comic books accurate, it would look stupid in most movies, but he makes it look believable.
That's it. That's what you need. That's just the magic ingredient into any comic book movie.
Yeah. I think it's interesting when you look at like there's an amazing line from the first X-Men movie where like Wolverine's like, what a it's like are we seriously wearing like leather jumpsuits? And the guy's like, and Cyclops is like, what do you expect, yellow spandex? And it's like, it's funny because back then it's like, if you were to do that, it'd be a terrible movie. You'd be laughed at.
Yeah.
But if with the right vision of the world building, you can actually make it look legit.
That's so true.
You just have to set up a world where realism is not what you're going for. And James Gunn is like a master at that. And he's a great storyteller. All of his films that I've seen, or most of them, as crazy as they are, they have like a lot of heart. And they made us like a tree and a raccoon. So, of course, a giant shark will be emotional.
I know. I'm seeing so many TikToks and memes about him, but I don't want to watch too much because I don't want too much to be spoiled for me.
Yeah,
I think I'm going to really love him, though, a lot. I sort of watched a couple of breakdown videos just to get some extra nerdy information, and I feel like there's going to be a lot of seeds planted into this and a lot of even in the trailer alone, just plot twists waiting to blow people's minds.
Well, I'm not going to spoil anything because I clearly haven't seen the movie.
No, you have not.
I'm not spoiling anything. So let's move on to... Oh, it's our last one for today.
Yes.
Our last one left is Free Guy. Now, at the time of recording, I think it just came out in cinemas.
In the States, though.
In the States. Yep. In Australia, a lot of our things have been pushed back. What do you reckon of Free Guy?
Oh, my God. Okay, for years and years and years, my brain, the way it works when I'm watching a movie is I want to know that guy's story that was extra number 12.5 and he's like the disgruntled farmer. Like, what the hell is that guy's story? This whole concept I've waited for a really long time. The fact that it's Ryan Reynolds, one of my favorite comedic actors ever, and it's in a video game like GTA, I'm really excited. So, yeah. The trailer alone, in the beginning, when it's like, the studio that brought you Beauty and the Beast and The Lion King twice. That's just, you had me. You had me at hello, basically.
The way that they, like, the voice of these sort of ads, it makes you wonder, like, does Ryan Reynolds have a writing team? Because it's the type of joke you expect Ryan Reynolds to make.
I read that in his voice. So
yeah, like, is he sitting in there on the edits like, no, make it sound more like this? Or whatever. You know, because
I think he's heavily involved. He has to be because it's him. Like, that's exactly how I read it. But then
I'm assuming he's at least a producer on something like this. He's got to be, right?
Yeah. And I'm sure that I wouldn't be surprised if he did have a writing team that sort of followed him through all his projects to keep that consistency. It's like his little stamp on everything.
Yeah. I am starting to get a little bit of Ryan Reynolds fatigue just because he's such a specific voice. We're getting a lot. Although, you know, because he killed it in Deadpool, obviously. Yes. But I do not give a shit about The Hitman's Bodyguard. I've only seen the first one, but it just feels too generic for me to give a shit.
That's fair. I enjoyed it. I watched the second one the other night. The second one's way more brutal, but
is it? Okay.
Yeah, like I liked it.
I'll probably end up watching it.
Give it a go.
But like, and you know, I liked him Detective Pikachu, even though it sort of felt like he was just. It's like he was trying to do Deadpool with two hands tied behind his back.
Yeah.
Because he's not allowed to swear. But like, I love Detective Pikachu there. I thought it was great.
Me too. I really liked it. It did take me a bit to get used to him voicing Pikachu, but then
yeah. That was so weird. But I also think Detective Pikachu, that and Sonic may be the best video game movies ever made.
I agree.
It's not saying much because there's a lot of bad video game movies, but for kids' films based on video games, they're really good.
I love them.
So I am cautious on Ryan Reynolds, but I'm getting slightly annoyed with movies about video games, not based on video games, about them.
What, like Jumanji?
Okay, so Jumanji 1, amazing, fantastic, right?
It.
Jumanji 2, it's pretty much the same thing.
But
that's
still
the problem.
Fun.
But that's the problem because for me, as an so with the first one, they took the concept of a video game and did actually some really good creative stuff with it.
Yeah.
You know, lives and loading screens and NPC characters. Like, that's cool. And the second one, they didn't introduce anything new.
Yeah.
Like I remember there was this one scene, and maybe this is coming from someone who plays way too many video games, but like there was a part where they were walking and there was a big open area, right? And I remember thinking, when I play a video game, I see a big open area, I know a boss is going to show up. Mm-hmm. And a boss didn't show up. And I'm just like, I know, I wish, it feels like, at least with the second one, it's about video games, but it's not being written by a gamer.
I understand. I understand both sides of the coin, because then you have like if I watch it with my parents, they don't see that. Like, it doesn't affect them. But then if it's you, it's going to affect you. So they just feel like cater.
If you have a concept, milk it. Like, or not even milk it, but just use it. Yeah, right? Yeah. Like Jumanji 2 had a really nice emotional character arc with like Danny Glover and Frank from Always Sunny, Danny DeVito's character. They had a nice character arc, and it was cool to see like the characters like doing different stuff, but I feel like they didn't use it much. And then when I look at something like Ready Player One, which was a cool like thematically, it felt like a cool like throwback to old school Spielberg adventure films and stuff,
but didn't hit the mark.
Like, yeah, and I just feel like my problem with it is they used the background characters or video game characters in the background the way Space Jam does, where they're just in the background.
Yeah,
it's like it's just using the excuse of a video game to do cool fantasy shit, when really I feel like if you have this format, you should use it. Yeah. Now,
it's hollow on the inside, like it's sugar coated sort of thing.
It's not authentic. Yeah. And what I'm hoping for Free Guy is they do have more of that. All right, and I think there's a possibility there. Like the craziness of all the characters and all that stuff, it feels a little bit Fortnite sort of. Yeah. This new generation of video games for kids where everybody's wearing wacky costumes and bright colors, and it's got a little bit of that. Like, obviously the world's like loosely inspired by games like Saints Row and Grand Theft Auto, but at the same time it looks like it's meant to be like a World of Warcraft like multi online player thing. But like I have a feeling when I watch it and I'm gonna see shit and go like, that would never happen in a video game. And I know I should be... Yes. I know it's probably made for kids. I shouldn't be thinking about this.
I don't think this is made for kids. I think this is an R-rated film, like in the States.
Can you fact check
because
that? Because
if you say the F word twice, that's an automatic F rating.
But is the F word used in any of the trailers?
Not in the trailer, but I'm pretty dead set. It's like his movie, and people are getting shot at constantly. Like, I'm pretty sure this is like a Deadpool-esque thing.
Look it up. Check, confirm for me while I ramble here. But I feel like it's not, because if it was, they'd be milking it and there'd be a Red Band trailer. Like, that would be like it would be the headlines. I feel like the headlines would be like, I feel like they want to sell this to like 8-year-olds who watch who play Fortnite and Minecraft. I feel like that's their target. But I could be wrong. Either way, I'm just really hoping they take advantage of that world.
All right. Okay, fine. I think you're right. It's got an M rating here, which means it would be MA over there or whatever. So. Or
PG-13 in the States. Could go either way.
Oh, I thought it was going to be like way worse, like in terms of that.
I think I've ruined the movie for you.
That sucks. But that's okay. I'm holding up hope.
Look, it doesn't mean it'll be bad. Like we just spent like a good 5 minutes talking about how good Detective Pikachu was.
True.
Which was a PG-13 movie starring Ryan Reynolds.
I will say though, that's a very good point. I think the only thing that I'm worried about that's going to let me down is the ending. How are they going to end this?
And I just also think on top of that, it's like, how are they going to explain why this non-playable programmable character has sentient life?
Yeah.
Like, are they going to do a Toy Story thing, or are they going to go, is it some magical alien fantasy liquid pours in the video game? And what I find a bit confusing is, well, not confusing, but a bit weird, is in the trailers we see that there's the real world and then there's also the video game world. But they both look the same. Like maybe it would be better if they had some sort of filter or some aesthetic in the video game world to differentiate the two.
Yeah.
And the bad guy is like this video game developer played by Taika Waititi, who I want to see him, his interactions with Ryan Reynolds. That's a great match right there, I think.
Perfect.
But like, how's he going to be funny while he's disconnected from the video game? And I'm seeing a lot of potential elements for problems. They're not problems, but they're problems they have to solve, if that makes sense.
I guess like with Jumanji, because they had the original to go off, using the whole like it's a bit of magic, that still works for that. But this one, it's more like I'm going to assume there is some sort of glitch in the programming or the coding which gives him freedom, and then he's going to maybe find a loophole to come into the real world, but then like where do you go from there?
What do you do with that? Like just based on what they're setting up here, it makes me feel like he falls in love with the avatar of a real gamer by a girl, and then she decides to stay in the video game and they get married in the game.
Or does he jump out of it somehow and then like
it's Bicentennial Man, like you're a real boy. Yeah. It's I feel like there's a lot of like weird moments for that. I've seen one or two slight cameo spoilers thanks to TikTok ruining shit for me.
Okay.
Which I'm told like one of them doesn't really matter in the storyline. It's just more like this is just a little funny joke. But it reminds me of a concern I've had looking at one of the trailers, which is the way that they're advertising the film. It's like they're really resting the laurels of Taika and Ryan, not on the story. Like the biggest trailer it has is Deadpool and Korg reacting to it, which are two Marvel characters, which I assume are not in the movie. And I feel like, it's an easy way to sell the movie, but
doesn't mean it's gonna...
I don't know. It's too easy. It's too easy. So it makes me a bit concerned. However, I believe reviews are starting to come out, and I'm hearing this good word of mouth. Okay. So I'm open to it, but I'm walking to this one very cautiously.
All right. I'm going to probably lower my bar a little bit now that you told me that it's more on the PG-13 side.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's fine. But I don't know. I think I'm really interested to see how this thing's going to end. And they're probably most likely going to leave it open for a sequel because it's going to make bank. Sure. So
they want this to be a franchise for sure.
Yeah. So let's see how that goes. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's it for us today here at Upcoming Attractions. That is our very first recorded episode done in 2 separate parts. Episodes normally won't be like this, actually. There'll be some, we'll talk about trailers for like half the episode, and then we'll be discussing some others. You probably would already know this because this episode will not be the first we release. Since recording, we have had our lockdown in Sydney further extended, which is incredibly depressing.
So depressing.
So I think we might have to do a few more of these, maybe one for movies coming out in September, and maybe one's coming out in October, depending on how we go. But hey, that doesn't mean there's nothing for us to talk about. I know you and I, 80, we've both seen Jungle Cruise.
Yes.
And have you seen Luca?
Yes, I've watched it a few times actually now.
Okay, don't tell me, because we will talk about that on the first episode, which was probably already released. So you guys probably already know. But I know there's others on the horizon. Coda just came out, which is on Apple TV Plus that people are talking about. Sweet Child just came out on Netflix. So, ladies and gentlemen, just know there's still plenty of content for us to discuss and reasons for you to come to us. And for anyone who's not in Sydney, if you live in the States, you can laugh and react at us and say how wrong or right we are.
Please
as
do.
We guess how good these movies are going to be that we're not allowed to fucking see. Thank you for our government for fucking up our vaccine rollouts. But that's cool.
Love it.
That's okay. I'm not too mad here. I'm just going crazy.
I like doing the predictions. I feel like I'm actually kind of good at them. Sometimes it's ruined movies for me before though. Like I've predicted it in 15 minutes and gone, why did I study film?
Sometimes we know how the sausage is made. It can create some problems there. Yep. That's true. Well, anyways, that's it for us today. I'm Matt. That's 80. Make sure... Oh, God, we've never wrapped an episode before.
No,
please,
we haven't.
Please... Okay, we have to discuss. Please follow us on social media and the works. And we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.
Laters. See ya.